Good afternoon and welcome all teachers, stakeholders in education to our 84th anniversary of our Tobago Teachers Get Together. Today we are having our webinar where we look at that period between 2015 to 2019 and how impactful those particular periods, the development day, the award functions, the feature speakers, the icons chosen. We're going to do a little reflection today. This year's theme, however, before we go into that reflection, is equilibrium in education, achieving balance between traditional and progressive teaching approaches while ensuring health and wellness being a factor pre-pandemic and definitely post-pandemic. Now, Tutor has over the years shed light on various issues at the Tobago Teachers Get Together Development Day function. At these functions, not only have issues been addressed, but solutions and advice have been given to the participants. Fitting icons who have replicated some aspects of the message in the theme have been chosen. We ensure to have fitting presenters as well, feature speakers, to expound appropriately. The value of these messages ought not rest in the archives, but they are quite relevant today, and it would augur well for us to do some reflection. Margaret Wheatley once said, "Without reflection, we go blindly on our way, creating more unintended consequences and failing to achieve anything useful." That is definitely not going to be said about the Tobago district and more so Tutor on a whole. So with me, we have Ms. Shumelta Roberts-Henry and we have Ms. Claudette Governor. Ms. Roberts-Henry would have been one of our icons, actually it's a 2016 icon, and is still a stalwart in Tutor, running the retiree section in the Tobago district. And to our side, we have Ms. Claudette Governor, still active teacher principal, who would have been our former Tobago officer and very active before becoming a Tobago officer and throughout her entire time, and more so as Tobago officer in the background with the planning and all the work it takes to bring forward the get together. So welcome, Ms. Roberts-Henry and Ms. Governor.
Thank you, and Braden, and good evening.
And before we get into it, Ms. Roberts-Henry, how has it been? You know, we've been calling, we've been asking you to check up on the retirees and so on. As we prepare to do some reflection today, just give us a little feedback as we introduce you.
It has been hectic. Really hectic for somebody close to 3/4 of a century. I boast about that. I am happy for the grace of God to be able to do what I do. Every waking moment I've been linking with retirees, linking with other stakeholders, persons in the nursing fraternity, persons in my church who would look forward to get together. And so it has been hectic, but I'm enjoying it.
I see that. Ms. Governor.
Well, being still in the school system, well, I am trying my best to see how I can maneuver with the changes that are happening in education today and with the children, especially. But with the Tobago Teachers Get Together, I still look forward to it every year because it's that time when we get to meet and greet, be ourselves as teachers and get to interact with each other on a different level.
Yes, and I must say I appreciate when we call in both occasions. It was an immediate yes. There wasn't even I would think about it. So let's get right into it. In 2015, now we are doing a reflection on those themes because there were some significant messages that we ought not have them die or rest in their archives, as I said earlier. In 2015, for our 75th anniversary, we looked at looking back with praise, going forward with promise, where we had our icon, the Right Reverend Claude Berkeley, Bishop of Trinidad and Tobago, the then icon for 2015. And we also had as our feature speaker Mr. Rennie Dumas. Now that 2015 period, we would have been coming out of the 2013 children rights and some changes in education. So indeed, looking back with praise, going forward with promise would have been a fitting theme during that time. Give us your thoughts.
It was also that because we were celebrating 75 years.
Yes.
And when we looked at the theme, because I was part of the executive at that time, we thought we should begin, give like a service, proper worship, because we have come this far. And the looking back with praise will where we exemplified really, or give credence to that line in the tutor anthem that says, teachers of the past, our hearts go out to you. And we looked at that, and who else could we have chosen than somebody who started tutor, the formation of tutor? Because Mr. René Damas, as well as Claude Berkeley, they were pillars, cornerstones in that forming of the tutor, where they moved away from the 3 T's and formed this one union for all teachers. As well as they were also the starting people for the executive. When the executive in Tobago started up, they were there as well, and Mr. René Damas being the first Tobago officer. Yes, so we saw that it was really quite an honor to have him speak, because he would have been able to take us back to where they started. So we really thought that these 2 people were the ones that should have been honored on that 2015 year. It was really, that 2015 was really a celebration above all else.
And Mr. Milton, you would have been around in it when Mr. Berkeley would have been in the classroom and so on. Tell us.
He has always been dynamic. He has maintained that. And so we look back with praise as we go forward with promise. And we could see it in the person of Claude Berkeley. And René Damas, rest his soul, he too was dynamic in every sense of the word. He really rallied around teachers and what we ought to be and what should continue even up until now, so we need to reflect. I suppose we have in our archives things that our current teachers can relate to and move on and gather more strength to do the task ahead.
And certainly myself as a baby in the association, I wouldn't have been around when the stalwarts would have been doing great work in the district.
Yeah,
so it's great that we even actually started from the 75th to come forward. Yeah. And in 2016, we even moved forward where yourself, Ms. Robert, said we would have been the icon, where we looked at maneuvering the new educational landscape in Trinidad and Tobago. Rethink, recharge, reposition, and restart. So how you would have felt as icon? I know you carry that flag well. So let us see.
I know. Believe you me, I am proud to have had that opportunity to carry the flag. And the spark hasn't been put out. Yeah, the energy is still there, and I try to do my best. Once a teacher, always a teacher. I live it. Yeah, but
I think she's selling herself short.
Yes, very short.
What Miss Yamelta did at that time, she was responsible, and I must say, there was retirees in Tobago. She was responsible for getting most of them on board.
Well, I'll put that is or no?
She not,
because she's still working. I'll put that is.
At that time, right? So she still is, because she was, at that time she was moving, vibrant. And what she did after we gave her that honor, and she really, really accepted and was so proud, she went around to schools, letting the children know, well, she was the icon and why. And she showed them, and she also spoke about the importance of being a teacher at that time. And it was really heartwarming to see, well, this is where, after we leave the classroom, we go home and we think we're going home to nothing. But it was actually showing teachers as well that there was something to look forward to. Right? Continue the work, because she did not stop even after she retired. The work continued.
Yes. It is. As one teacher says to me, the only icon who will say, I am the icon. So for some people, I'm called icon, and I humbly bow. But I really enjoy still being a teacher. I know doctors don't ever say I was a doctor, and I feel happy to be a teacher all my life. And thank God for that grace to carry through.
And even to marry the team, because the team then was to rethink, recharge, reposition, and restart. And you are a fitting example of retirement is not going and sit somewhere by a beachside and do nothing and relax. Or stay in bed until you get sick. You are very active, and actually you encourage me as to looking forward to after retirement, because there's a lot and you portray a lot as a retiree and icon of tutor. So let's expand on that part. How the activities in the retiree section, because you are exemplifying that rethinking and the recharging and the restarting and so on in this section of your life.
Well, what do I say? We work along with a calendar. So come January morning, the retirees meet on the third Tuesday every month. And so in January, we plan our calendar. So we have what is called empty the cupboard. So we bring whatever remains after Christmas and we have a little snack and we plan our calendar. And it's not repetitive, but from that calendar, we look at what happens after Carnival. So after Carnival, we relax on the beach. So we usually go to Pigeon Point and we call it after Carnival cool down. Maybe some people will prefer us to change the name because, for religious purposes, some people don't want the word carnival in it. But we could have out and about, but so we do that after Carnival. We reflect, we have Lenten reflections, and we encourage other persons with different strengths to run the program. Like, for example, this year we had our 2023 icon, Mrs. Roslyn Moore Allen, and she did our Lenten reflections, And going further, we always have a trip. We travel out when the children are at school and we stay away from the hurricane season. So in June, we travel. Fortunately, this year we are hoping to go to Cuba. And there's a group of 20 of us going off to Cuba.
So the retirees join the section.
We're keeping it alive. And then we pay attention to the elderly as well. So there is a slot where we visit the homes for the aged. And so that's our July agenda. And the heritage season, we pay attention to that as well. So we put aside our uniform, our blue t-shirts, and we dress up in our African outfit and so on. And so we have reflections in terms of our heritage. So we cook and we go back to our poetry, our folk songs, and so on. And there is a legal aspect. I think somewhere in the month of October, we pay attention to retiree and the law, because some of us, we're getting down, we want to make wills and prepare deeds and so on. So we focus on that as well. And then there is our annual dinner, so a luncheon, because people prefer not to drive in the night. So we have a luncheon. 1 year in the east, 1 year in the west. Last year we were at Sharon and Phoebe's in Charlottesville. And the year before we were at Comfort Inn, and so we switch around. But we have a very interesting programs that we don't close down. We've been going for a long time, and we hope to carry through. So on the third Wednesday in the month, I go to Trinidad and represent our Tobago retirees.
I must say we are proud to have you on set to expound on all the things that the retiree section is taking part in, and to also highlight again our 2016 icon, where we looked at maneuvering the new educational landscape in Trinidad and Tobago: rethink, recharge, reposition, and restart. And we moved on to another young icon in Young in Spirit. Our Mr. Noel
On Saturday, I go to keep fit.
Mm.
I'm like, yeah. I go to those fit. We back on track. No, you talk plenty. I need to put the camera on you. Believe you me.
You doesn't nervous, okay?
No, I ain't nervous. I'm tired. I really need to rest now.
So moving on, from 2016, we went to another young icon, young in spirit, Mr. Noel Sosa, where we looked at To Your Calling Be True, our youths, our shared responsibility. And I would say, being a student of Scarborough Secondary School with Mr. Sosa as principal, he will be looking through the window and be able to call persons from afar. So he was very dedicated to task. And I must say I was very proud when we were able to choose Mr. Sosa as our 2017 icon. Your thoughts, Ms. Governor?
Well, you had him as a principal. I had him as a teacher at the Bishop's High School, where he was always, he didn't fail from what he knew. And I saw him carry what he used to do in that secondary school as a teacher into principal, because he really enjoyed working with young people. And you know, he was instrumental in the cadets. He was an officer in the cadets, and he had that cadet thing running in the Bishop's High School. And he was always there. The boys would go to him for advice, and children on a whole, because he was also the geography teacher. So Mr. Noel Sosa, he indeed was that fitting icon for that year, because he did indeed the theme To Your Calling Be True, because we understand his work with young people out of school and in school.
I don't want to take us off the path in which we are, but what I can say about Noel Sosa now, we were associated since way back in 1968.
Okay.
We're talking music festival.
Oh yes.
We're talking Anglican Young People's Association. You know, To Your Calling Be True. And Noel lives that kind of spirit. So in 1968, just a little before I started to teach, we went off to Trinidad to the music festival, because we represented as a choir, you know. And so Noel has been into church. He still runs the St. Patrick's Anglican Church choir and all that. He's into dance ensemble, and so, you know, he is I don't even the language I can't find, but he's good. He's an all-rounder. Yeah,
And
he's really true to his calling.
as mentioned before, very dedicated principal, dedicated in education. Even
education,
now, when he sees me, he'll ask me,
education.
"Why are you making out, boy? You know, how you married Jade?" And so on, because he knows it's very important for us to get the education system right. We even moved on in 2018, where we had Dr. Joanne just now, we had Miss Kenneth
Dr.
Bob.
Diane.
The late
2018.
Kenneth Bob, where we looked at teaching and leadership in challenging times. And Miss Bob would have known about that. And we would have gone
She has a
from where teaching would have been very challenging. You would hear persons talking about $1,000 and something $1 salary that teachers used to work for in the early days and so on. And teachers fought through the challenges. So as persons who have experienced part of her in the classroom, and as colleagues, please share.
I think, knowing that icon, Kenneth Bob, I do not think anything challenged her. She was a challenger. you know that she had that kind of strength and commitment and dedication to duty that nothing challenged her. no child, no misbehavior, no lackluster in the classroom would cause her to chicken out, as it were. She would take the challenge and really handle any situation, be it financial or otherwise, you know, and discipline, whatever. She was that kind of person.
Yes.
So
Any further?
Because I didn't work with her. I didn't experience her as a teacher, just in tutor and all of that. And I think what she did was take anything and turn it into fun. Because even while going to accept her award on that night, a mishap happened, and it only well everybody was ooh and ah. But when she went up and started making fun of it, it was she turned it into humor. So I think that is what she probably did in the classroom as well. She took the challenges and made it fun, because I think everybody enjoyed her in the classroom as a home ec teacher. I would hear my sister speaking about her when they came home and all these kind of things. But she was really one, even after we could call on her for anything, even in tutor. And she would be there ready and willing to assist in any way. So that's the kind of person she was, always for education, and she would have been able to change, accept what is happening today, let us know, well, children aren't the same like they used to be, and bring it into today's world.
As you mentioned the humor, I remember the night she was given the award, she said, I con no one. So I con no one. Really
play on words.
Yes.
And I trust that as we move on to Miss Janet Spears for 2019, that persons or our audience, they are paying attention to the characteristics being expressed or being portrayed in the icons that we are mentioning here today. So in 2019, we had Miss Janet Spears, where we look at mental health, a critical pillar of a sustainable education system. And Ms. Janet Spears is still very active with the retiree section and so on. And so you should be able to tell us more.
Oh yes, community spirit. She is into the credit union of her church. She's a pillar with literacy, adult literacy, and literacy programs on the whole. She's a public figure in terms of really giving of herself. Even she could be very senior. Janet's still young. But, I recall, perhaps I am going back to one of the themes, but, looking back at Janet Spears as a teacher. I remember there were the days when we had the Winshaw public speaking competition. And when the children came forward to present, you could actually tell these children were trained by Miss Spears, the tone of voice and everything else. So whichever teacher presented, we had that. But I think, well, if I can humbly say, the icons have been well chosen and continue to do what they're supposed to do. Yeah.
And well, this is testimony or testament to say that as we as teachers in the classroom now, persons are looking on. So even beyond retirement, persons will be looking for your portrayal of that strong character, that strong Tobago character, if I may say. So even afterwards to be recognized and so on, we don't like when persons pass on and then we say good things. So as the association, we practice giving persons their flowers while they are alive. And it even further encourages, as I see Ms. Roberta doing a lot as icon, 2016 icon, and I'm sure everyone who would have met her knows that's the 2016 icon tutor.
I wear it with pride.
Yes. And I'm proud to see you wearing it with pride. So as we move into the speakers, so we'd have touched on Mr. René Dumas and how he would have been in tutor, so very fitting, so we can move on. We would have had Dr. Diane Douglas, one of the powerhouse in motivational speeches and so forth. We also would have had Pastor Clive Dutton. A lot of persons invites him to his graduation and all his motivational speeches and so on. We'll go through all and then you will give your general views. We had, in 2018, we had Dr. Joanne Spence, also very dynamic with the behavioral change therapist. We had in 2019 Arts in Action, where they had broken up the team into different sections and did dramatic plays and so on to bring out the team. So as we look at the feature speakers for those years, let's hear your feedback on those choices.
I think when we're choosing, when we're looking at the theme, what we try not to do, because on that day, teachers not really into the long sit down, and so we try to bring people who would bring life to the theme. And that has been happening in all of these. This has been happening, especially, Dr. Diane, she was able to, she brought that out because she asks questions, she makes things interactive when she's there. Clive Dutton, he's just fun, laughter, because he tried to bring humor into it and, to get people involved, because these are people who are able to read the room while they are conducting. Well, with the mental health, teachers that's a thin line today. And I think this team, it's been, people are trying to use it more and more. In most of the sessions we do, we're trying to focus on the teacher's mental health. Because what we try not to do especially is to focus on children in these sessions. And the Arts in Action, they were a lively bunch, and they did bring life to this team. I think when everybody left here, they were fulfilled, relieved. Everybody felt like it was worthwhile. And that is something that I must applaud the district over the years for, that when we are having the sessions, we focus on the teachers. We try to keep it alive so that the teachers are able to relate.
Yes. And the development day is not just a normal development day.
No, it's not just.
I could afford to miss this year.
Yes.
No, every year is something new. There's a different approach.
You miss. When you are not here, you miss.
Yes. And you see, a lot of teachers speak to feeling energized after development day session.
Yes.
What is lacking is the continuity.
Yes.
So I'm even proud that we are doing a little reflection to bring back some of those messages of the past.
Right.
As we look at that though, as we look back, how has the development of education, the teachers at conduct at school, the feelings of our teachers, even in their duties, having gone through these themes, how have we transitioned over the years as a union and as teachers in the Tobago space? So we would have looked at, we started off in 2015 with the celebration of that achievement. We moved into looking at the maneuver in the new educational landscape in Trinidad and Tobago with the rethink, recharge, reposition, and restart. We went on to your calling be true, our youths, our shared responsibility. We further looked at teaching and leadership in challenging times. 2019, we had mental health.
Yeah.
We are now in 2024. We had 2020, 2021. Because of the pandemic, we missed those 2 years.
No, we were virtual. Remember, we went online.
21, 22, 23. We went back.
Yeah.
Yes. So how have we transitioned from these topics? Is it that we would have just had those topics and we're not seeing the impact in our education system? Or how do you believe they would have impacted, and where do we go from here, having done that reflection?
Yeah, I think Mrs. aptly poised to deliver, because you're in the classroom. Yes, I might
think
have an idea.
What happens most of the time is that we leave with our energy and it stays here within us. We don't let it go out there. We don't say, well, when I went to teachers get together, this happened, and I think it doesn't go there for most of us. Because remember, a lot of the teachers didn't go, right? So we are left with it, and it's very few of us, when we have our meetings, we might speak about what happens in a session that we went to. So sometimes it doesn't. What should happen though is that there could be follow-ups. We could have shorter sessions and say, you send out something and say, well, we would like to come to your school, and if we could, just enlighten teachers as to something, we would like to share something. That is something that we could try, We could try, because a lot of people are complaining still about the same things we have sessions about. And they go to the classroom and they complain about it. They talk about burnout. They talk about the children and how challenging it is to be in education today. And we saw that burnt out when we went to, after COVID. We look at the number of teachers that left the school, left teaching because they couldn't cope with the change in the technology, the shift that we had. A lot of people retired. A lot of people just shut down. They started just sending in the work. And we have to look at that as well. The changes that are happening in education. And we spoke about it, challenging, changing times. But when 2020 hit, we were not ready for these challenging times. Right? Mm-hmm. And despite the frustration we had from the government, from the parents, support systems were not there. And that is something we need. We as teachers need to know that we can look back and we can fall blindly and get that pushback. We're not getting that sometimes. So that is something that we really need. Although we expound on it a lot of times, it's not real.
And it speaks to what Tutor is doing, and the wider membership needs to also support us with that. You see, we try to bring that body together with the development day where we have the conversations, but we still need those pocket conversations to continue in the schools and so forth. So I would charge the district as it is now to create some of those avenues, whether it's a staff chat or so where we discuss some of these topics.
Or we could just vent sometime. Oh, we're having a problem with this. Anybody could help? Anybody had it? You know, these are things that we would like to see sometimes too.
Yeah, well, from where I sit, I mean, being a retiree of 23 years, I could tell that sometimes I'm a little disappointed. I don't want to hit anybody under the belt, but I am a little bit disappointed. You know, I want to see, and at least more of the teacher in a real sense. I want to see more of the teacher. Don't just, you know, because the union will step in, I can do this, so I can do that. You know, I want greater commitment on the part of the teacher. Yeah.
Well, we have been highlighting some characters and characteristics that persons can seek to emulate. So I trust that our audience, as they are listening, and it's not just hearing the message will make a change, you know, it's participating. So teachers, we need to look out for each other.
That too.
Definitely Tutor encourages that call to be a brother's keeper, a sister's keeper. So I trust that as we do our reflection and so forth, persons are ready to answer that call of looking out for your brother and your sister. And the teams we have, especially with the webinar now, where it's virtual, we can always go and look back at what the message would have been during those times. Sometimes hearing it once may not be enough, but having the conversation prolonged and so on is what is needed. So I know that we have a few messages in between, so now may be a fitting time for us to take a break and have some of our sponsors earmarked and so on.
Okay.
as we would have reflected on the previous themes, before we move forward, we will now invite Ms. Humelta Roberts Henry to give a poem that she would have written on Get Together.
Well, viewing audience, I hope you haven't heard it before, but even if you've heard it before, let me refresh your memory. It's a monologue about the Tobago teachers get together, and it was written on the 4th of June 1999, before the millennium. So, I'm confused. I'm not amused. I'm troubled, utterly befuddled. I'm trying hard to understand humanity and to maintain my sanity. I don't want to run from TNT, but I'm frightened. Somebody press a button and see what could happen to make things better for TNT. It's not Trinidad and Tobago, I mean. That could be part of the scene. But you see, teachers and Tobago, we don't have far to go. And it's that thought that have me so. I hope I could generate a spate of information plus information plus information so that our teachers, Tobago teachers, could get knowledge and wealth. Last year, I begged us to save the get-together. That was age 58. But perhaps I start to beg too late, because now that it's 59, we must have to turn back the hands of time and see if those fellas like Skipper Mitch could save us from going deeper into the ditch. Those who built this institution did really set up a tradition for teachers to have fun and entertain their companions. But now it's the other way around. Companion entertaining we from top to bottom. When I think about the talent that we teachers possess and how we glad to take recess at get-together time, I just feel sad, mad, bad. I just want to grind. Why I can't feel glad to see theater in education put on a production and another teachers group set up a dance troupe. So many of us could sing and do a good thing. I am glad that we have friends who could bail us out when we shout. But that was not the trend that the stalwarts wanted to commend in 1940, when windward used to meet leeward with many a chant and ditty. Even at the sports, we losing support. And instead of whipping the Trini pussy in all fours, we had to hold we belly. The Friday, we must put to good use and stop making excuse to peruse the tongue to fix business and shop around. If teachers show solidarity, especially when we in calamity, and rule out all hostility, the hierarchy can't oppress we. They would have to agree that post-primary is not secondary, and the love we generate would wipe out all hate in and among TNT. I don't have to frown, but Tobago teachers get together must get back she crown. And that's it. Thank you.
What a fitting poem, and it may be fitting all now, because I recall in our previous, in last year's get together, when you would have asked for the number of participants from Tobago, majority of the persons were from Trinidad. So as we have the richness in our get together production, it's really important that we as Tobagonians have the Trinidadians fighting for our space. They should not be taking our space so easily. So yes, we have, as the Tobago district, been making strides in ensuring that the Tobago Get Together stays alive, and not so just stay alive or to survive, but to press forward. So teachers, We trust that you'll be coming out in your numbers on the 29th. We have the development day, and then the 30th we have the awards function and so forth. We have the church service tomorrow, as you would have seen in the ad during the break, and I trust that persons are there to come out in their numbers. There is no one to love you more than yourself. So as teachers, we have to support each other. Tutor is putting out that effort, and we ask that you all come out and make this year a grand year in itself. Talking about this year, we have done some reflection. We have looked at what we need to do going forward, where the shortcomings may be, the putting down of the theme and the topics and the need for further dialogue and conversation. And then we now have this year's theme, where we are looking at trying to have an equilibrium in education. We're trying to have a balance between the traditional and the progressive teaching approaches. Now we know we have the conversation about online teaching and those who are able to do the transition, if they have the devices, if they have the resources, the older ones, if they are ready or in a position to learn the new techniques in incorporating online. But there must be some form of the traditional aspect of teaching. You know, we have been talking about literacy and where we are on the island with literacy. The teaching of reading, sometimes the remedial teachers we had in the past. We don't have the remedial teachers now, we have the instructional coaches. Yeah. So in having that balance, what would be the advice, both parties? The traditional with the progressive teaching approaches.
If I may start, traditional teaching. You know, the saying says that over the past 100 years or so, the only thing that has not changed is the classroom. And, you know, while some of us may beg to differ, it could be true, because I'm looking, before we did our chalk and talk, then came the invention of the whiteboard, then we started the whiteboard and the markers and the whiteboard. And then came COVID, and everybody was online, and COVID was really, you know, it changed the way that children learn, to change the dynamics, because now we're seeing the teachers using videos. They're using different, apps and techniques in order to bring life to the classroom, because it was virtual. And then we opened again and we went back, right? What we have to understand too is that children have changed. The children are not the children that we taught or that we were when we were, right? Because one, we used to get licks. That calmed us a lot. It changed our mindset, because Daleks, you're not getting anything wrong again. You're working. Children know we can't do that to them. Parents not parenting the way they should at home anymore. That's a big thing, right? Most children growing up on devices. So this child home, every day home, and then they come to school and you want them to sit like this and stare at a board. Now we have to change the way we are teaching first as teachers. We have to change the way we look. Even though we might not have the technology we need in the classroom, we have to go back to that way that teachers did before. Bring the resources in. So sit, take your time, you cut up, you laminate, you do what you have to do, and make learning as fun, as much fun as possible, right? We also have to look at, it's a lot, eh? We also have to look at the kind of children we have. Pre-COVID, children were different. Post-COVID, we have children with poor social skills, right? We have children with short attention span. And these are things that we have to look at, how we teach. How are we going to manage this? And teachers now, to be honest, we're frustrated. We're saying we don't know what to do. We are seeing more autistic children than we ever did.
Yeah.
Right? In the system. So we need that support for us to do our work. I spoke about support before, but we really do need that extra school support. And I want to ask on this, I hope that some ministry official is listening to us. You remember when they brought special ed teachers and they asked them to train, and that they would send one to each school? I want to know, where are the special ed teachers? That is my question to the public. Where are the special ed teachers? Because we need them now more than ever. So in order for us to have that balance, I could cut short now. In order for us to have that balance, we need that support system, because the way we learn is different. The way life is on a whole. Remember your phone? The children don't know how to use that phone that we had, you know. They will come pick it up, press, and miss what to do after. That is what they ask. So we have a lot We have modern children in our hands. They call them the Gen Alphas. So these are the technology children. All right? And we have to be prepared, and we are not. Our classrooms and our schools are not ready for the children we have to teach today. Right? So, I don't know.
I'm wondering, if our co-curricular aspect could help in a great way. For example, our scouts, our brownies, our guides, our little 4-H club, the Red Cross, and have them involved otherwise, have that kind of...
It can, and we do have a lot of that in the schools. The co-curriculars, we do co. We have them in the schools. We have the brownies and the guides, and the children are interested. But then again, to be part of these things are expensive. And parents crying, because everything going up except your salary. And the parents are crying. Right? So that does help. So what we try to do as well is to fit things in that don't really cost. You try to get them involved in choir and the drumming and these things, the little things. Right? Because we know today a lot of parents living in apartments, we live in the homes with the yards, and everybody's working, granny working, everybody's working. So to get the children that kind of exposure now is difficult. So it's easier for me to give them a tablet and say, sit quiet.
And these tablets are costly.
Yes.
Yes.
And even when we look at how education has evolved, we have been adding and we have just been throwing things at education. So even with the co-curricular, a lot of things have been added, but the time remains the same. So how do we factor in?
That's another thing.
Yes.
I might get in trouble for saying this kind of, because still in this system, because one of my old teachers said, when you're in it, you don't knock it. But the government, sitting in their cold rooms, don't know what is happening down on the floor. A lot of us are suffering in heat, right? School's still going till 3 o'clock, 2:33. School's still going on till that time, despite the change in the climate, whatever, they don't care. What is happening now? We have to change our timetable. They have introduced what is called the cultural transformation.
Yeah.
And they are saying that the bulk of our timetable should be this. Good? Now we need resources. Where are our resources? You can't want me, after I'm teaching 14 subjects, to go and teach a child how to dance, to go and teach a child this thing, to go and, yes, I know teachers are all hats, but we as well have to sit and plan a curriculum, and we get burnt out. We have to do the PE. We have to do everything. So you want the cultural transformation, and every term you are asking, what have you done? Why have you not done it? Bearing that this short, I still have to get a child ready for an exam that you set. Nothing is changing. We still have to, you want the first teachers, forgive me, you want the standard 1 and standard 3. You want that national test done, and you're testing it on the curriculum that should have been taught, forgetting that we are teaching children and not a curriculum. And there is where we have to start. We have to teach the children in front of us. I have to go and plan lessons. I have 3 sets or 4 sets in front of me, and these are my priority. I have to plan according to their levels. Because my thing is to move you from level 1 to level 2, level 2 to level 3. And those on level 2 and 3 must keep going up. I have to do that. Good. You want me now to come and add to the curriculum. So I have to stop. International Day, Spanish Day. Mind you, International and Spanish Day, 2 days, 2 different things. I have to do work against violence in a community that is violence ridden. Good. So you want me to go and do a walk against violence in this community. My parents can't come because if somebody crossed this side, it's bullets. And we have to deal with reality in these things. I do not believe that whoever sat and did this was dealing with reality. Yes, they are good ideas, but all of them cannot be implemented. And that is something we have to look at.
And I truly appreciate the 2 parties we have, because when we ask the question, the first thing Ms. Humilton went to was the brownies and the
Yes.
Red Cross, because she knows how impactful
That is how they were
back in the time. And I'm also appreciative of your explanation as to what we are faced with now, which to me should be the encouragement for all our teachers to come out, because our feature speaker will take us through how to find the balance, because they said the war is won in the mind.
Yes.
Success starts in the mind. So we need to find ways in which we can cope while we don't have the resources that the ministry or the division wants us to work miracles with.
Yeah.
without those resources, we need as teachers, we're ensuring health and wellness as stated in our team, have the tools and the strategies.
You see that balance in health and wellness?
I empathize with current teachers, but you know, with all the pressure left, right, and center, I'm just saying, well, I love it so much that I'll give my all.
Yes, you would.
Yeah.
Yes.
And that's to me
That is why they are still there.
That's a
love of the
challenge for
job.
the association. Because, I mean, they bank on the heart of the teachers. So while, you know, we're clamoring for these particular things, we will never tell our teachers to leave those children dry.
Nope.
So the ministry and the division, to me, they need to step up and not provoke the association or the teacher to get to these levels. But in the meantime, we'll always look for proactive, positive measures. And the team this year, if I could get the name of the person, I can't remember the district of the conversation went to get to this team, but it's a very fitting team for now. And you see, if we don't manage frustration, you're going to have problems.
You're going to have problems.
Because a frustrated person don't think clearly.
Yes, no.
So teachers, I'm making that plug again for your presence, not to hear what happened, be there and get it live. Our feature speaker will do a very good job giving you the tools and the tactics and the strategies. As I said before, it is one in the mind. It starts there. And in closing remarks as we look at,
I hope we have great participation. I know the retirees are coming out in full force to give the support because we love get together from as far back as 1940, even if we weren't around, but we love it and we want to continue to give the support. Yeah? So
that is true. And young teachers especially, that you find that this may not be for you or not interested in it is. When I started teaching, first year, I was at get together. I was always involved in the union, and the union is something that you should get involved in. Let us not be the ones, because I know a lot of people say tutor has lost its tooth, it's not like the way before, but we are the ones, we are tutor. And we have to remember that we have to keep the union strong. Okay?
yes.
and we'll be back, but we'll take a short break and then we will wrap up. Right, welcome back. And before we think about wrapping up, of course, we cannot end without giving some attention to this year's icon, Miss Bernadette Alum, which you all may know as Pinky Mitch.
Pinky Mitchell.
Yes.
Pinky Mitchell.
Give us some more on it. And I think you would have spoken to her dad in
Of
your
course,
poem. So go ahead.
Skipper Mitch, Lionel P. Mitchell, a stalwart in education. In my poem, I mentioned last year, I beg us to save the get-together. That was age 58. But perhaps I start to beg too late. Because now that it's 59, we have to turn back the hands of time and see if those fellas like Skipper Mitch could save us from going deeper into the ditch. Yes, Lionel P. Mitchell, Skipper Mitch, is the father of Bernadette Alum, a.k.a. Teacher Pinky Mitchell. Yes, and they did a lot of work.
Yes, and I know that Miss Alum now would have been under her belt, would have had a lot in terms of the production field and being part in that entertainment sphere.
Okay.
Can you give us some more on that?
Yeah, I'm not sure if Bernadette Pinky was responsible for theater in education, but I have a strong feeling that even with the link with Turn of the Tide and so on, she did a lot of drama. I remember working along. Those were the days when we had music festival and arts festival. And in arts festival, the choral speaking, the drama, you name it, Pinky was the backbone of that. You know, so
with such under her belt, I look forward to what kind of presentation we may have in this year's get-together as we present our icon. You know, we usually try to find creative ways to bring forward our icons, so it's something for our teachers to look out for, and I trust that with a full hall, we will see the presentation of our icon, Miss Bernadette Alum.
Yes, beautiful.
As we close, I thank you all, the viewers, in advance, not just for listening for today's session, but for being there for Development Day and the awards function. The awards function is the next day, the 30th, at Nutrition Building. I believe we are starting at
5 o'clock.
5 o'clock. At 5 o'clock. So I trust that we'll be there to support this year's icon. And also for the Development Day, we come not to sign, but to take in the message. And the message this year is what I believe all teachers and parents need to pay attention to. So as we have the conversations in our get-together, please let it live on as we would have attempted to do in this year's webinar. Thank you very much to our esteemed guests.
Thank you.
And Tobago updates on the family here, our Tobago district. Continue the hard work as we press on.
Thanks for having me.